Now, I'm really starting to like this show because it really shows you how deranged John Brown really was. Now, listen to this.
When I'm giving my talks, I may ask you to testify, about your life. Deprivation and starvation as a slave, being whipped scandalous and such.
Dutch ain't never with me. And fed me good. Never been cold before sleeping in the woods with you and the boys.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't mention that.
And I ain't never been shot at till I met you.
No, I wouldn't mention that either.
Truth be told, I ain't seen a person murdered till I met you.
I would stay off that subject entirely.
You hear that? So, you have to understand that propaganda can be passed off as history. Now, the abolitionists were definitely propagandists. Not that there weren't problems under slavery, but they're exaggerating about it. Okay, there were some plantations that had problems. Some slave owners treated their slaves badly, but overall, it's not like that. If you know anything about black people or have any faith in black people, they wouldn't tolerate that kind of nonsense. I mean, look at someone like Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. We don't know them personally, but a lot of black people are upset because of what happened to them. Now, you're telling me that 4 million black people back then are personally being beaten for whatever reason. They're not getting paid. Their women are constantly being raped, and their families are constantly being taken away from them. And yet, black people don't really do anything about it. There's some rebellions, but the vast majority of black people pretty much don't fight back, which is ridiculous, right? We were cooking for these people. We were taking care of their children. We were a huge part of the plantation. You know how much damage we could do if we get pissed off? There's no way that we would tolerate that kind of ungodliness. But this is the nonsense that abolitionists perpetrate all the time.
While the old man was hated out on the plains, he was a hero beast.
My name is Osawatomie John Brown, and I am here to fight slavery.
They couldn't get enough of his stories. You would have thought that every pro-slaver, who mostly lived off of pennies and generally didn't treat the Negro any worse than they treated each other, was a bunch of cranks, heathens, and drunks who run around murdering one another. While the Free Staters spent all day sitting in church making paper cutout dolls on Wednesday nights.
We must defeat slavery. If any are bound, we are all bound.
It made me a bit sad, truth be to tell it, to watch all them white folks crying for the Negro. There weren't but one Negro besides me present, and we both knew to be quiet as mouses. Except for Frederick Douglass, it seemed like everybody got to make a speech about the Negro, except the Negro.
So there's a lot of misinformation that the abolitionists spew about slavery. Like, for example, Uncle Tom's Cabin. If you understand Uncle Tom's Cabin, Uncle Tom died because he didn't listen to the white man. That's why he died. 2 of his masters were good masters. The last one, he died. He met his end because he didn't listen to the white man. But every time that Uncle Tom reference is used, it's always meaning that the black man is always doing what the white man says. But that's not what Uncle Tom was about. So if there's misinformation there, what makes you think there's not misinformation when it comes to slavery? Like, literally, like, nobody would put up with that nonsense. The way they describe slavery, there's nobody that would put up with that nonsense. The vast majority of black people were treated like garbage, and we really didn't do anything about it? That is ridiculous. The only thing that makes sense is if it was an outlier, meaning that some plantations were like that, but the vast majority were not. And that's what the slave owners said. The Southerners said that. Yes, there are problems. They admitted it. They admitted that, yes, there are problems, but overall, we don't treat our slaves like that. And why would you? Because the slaves are property. Why would you damage your own property? Nobody seems to answer that question. So you have to really think about yourself. Propaganda can be passed off as history. And that's what the abolitionists did.